The massive screens in next-gen software's command center flickered with error messages as I sipped my coffee, watching chaos unfold exactly as I predicted. Red warning indicators spread across the global deployment map like a digital wildfire. Europe was already dark. Asia was following. The US servers would be next. "This is impossible," Marcus Anderson, VP of Product Development, shouted at his team of senior developers. "We tested everything. The security protocols were perfect." I held back a smile, remembering his words from this morning's launch meeting. "She's just a QA tester. Her concerns aren't relevant to this discussion." If only he bothered to read my full resume, or perhaps checked who actually wrote the core security algorithm his team had borrowed from the open source community. But that would have required looking past his own prejudices, wouldn't it? My name is Maya Chin, and for the past 2 years, I've been working as a quality assurance tester at NextGen Software, one of Silicon Valley's fastest-growing tech companies. On paper, I was responsible for finding bugs in their software before release. In reality, I was watching, waiting, and documenting every shortcut, every stolen piece of code, every security vulnerability they dismissed in their rush to market. Someone checked the core security module. Anderson was getting desperate now. The US servers had started failing right on schedule. I took another sip of coffee, remembering how this all began. 5 years ago, I developed a revolutionary security algorithm while working at my own startup. The algorithm, which I'd released as open source under a very specific license, had become the foundation for numerous security systems worldwide. Then the tech crash hit. My startup folded, along with dozens of others. While larger companies swooped in to buy up the remains, I made a different choice. I went underground, taking a seemingly low-level position at NextGen, watching as they built their new flagship product on top of my code. "Sir," one of the senior developers called out, "I found something in the security module. The license, it requires attribution and prohibits commercial use without explicit permission from the original author." Anderson's face went pale. NextGen was about to launch a $2 billion software platform, and they just discovered they didn't have the rights to use its core security component. "Who wrote this code?" he demanded. "Get them on the phone now." The original author, the developer read from his screen, is Dr. Maya Chen, published 5 years ago under the Chen-Martinez security protocol. Anderson's head snapped around so fast I thought he might get whiplash. "Chen? But that's—" "Yes," I said quietly, standing up from my corner desk. "That would be me. Dr. Maya Chen, former CEO of Secure Flow Technologies, current QA tester, and the person who's been trying to warn you about security vulnerabilities for the past 6 months." The room fell silent except for the continuing alert sounds from the monitoring systems. Every eye turned to me as I walked to the main console, pulled out my laptop, and connected it to the system. "What are you doing?" Anderson demanded, though his voice had lost its usual arrogance. "Implementing the emergency shutdown protocol that's built into my algorithm," I replied calmly. "The one I designed specifically to prevent unauthorized commercial use. The one I tried to tell you about this morning before you had security escort me out of the meeting." You did this?" His face was turning an interesting shade of red. "Do you have any idea how much money we're losing every minute?" "Actually, I do." I typed in a command sequence and the error messages began to clear. "Just like I know exactly how much money you were planning to make using my intellectual property without permission or attribution." The system stabilized but remained in safe mode, functional but limited. Around the room, developers and executives whispered among themselves, frantically pulling up my background on their phones. Dr. Chen's security algorithm, revolutionary approach to encryption. Secure Flow Technologies, one of the most promising startups before the crash. Over 20 patents in cybersecurity. Anderson slumped into a chair, realization dawning. Why? Why work as a tester if you had all this expertise? I closed my laptop and turned to face him, because sometimes the best way to understand a company's true character is to work from the ground up. To see how they treat people they think don't matter. To watch what corners they cut when they think no one important is looking. "The board will hear about this," he threatened weakly. Yes, I agreed, they will. They'll hear about how you ignored security warnings from your QA team, how you built a billion-dollar product on unlicensed code, and how you treated the very person whose work you were trying to steal. As if on cue, my phone buzzed with an email from NextGen's board of directors requesting an immediate meeting. I gathered my things calmly, feeling the weight of all those months of careful observation and documentation. One more thing, I said, pausing at the door. Check your employment contract. Specifically, the clause about intellectual property rights for algorithms developed by employees during their tenure. You'll find I've been quite busy these past 2 years. The look of horror on Anderson's face was almost worth all those months of being dismissed and underestimated. Almost. As I walked to the elevator, I could hear the chaos resuming in the command center. They were probably realizing that the emergency shutdown protocol was just the beginning. That my time as a mere QA tester had given me insights into their system that no outside developer could have gained. My phone buzzed again. A message from Maria Martinez, my former SecureFlow co-founder and still my best friend. Saw the next-gen crashes. Time for Phase 2. I smiled, stepping into the elevator. Phase 2 would change everything, not just at NextGen but across the tech industry. But first, I had a board meeting to attend, where I'd reveal exactly what happens when you underestimate the wrong person. Sometimes the quietest person in the room is the one you should fear most. And sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying a system. It's about exposing its flaws so thoroughly that it has to change. NextGen's boardroom felt exactly like you'd expect from a major tech company, all glass, chrome, and calculated intimidation. 12 board members sat around a gleaming table that probably cost more than my first startup's entire office. Their expressions ranged from barely concealed panic to outright hostility. CDO Michael Torres spoke first. "Dr. Chen, you've put us in quite a situation." "Actually," I replied, opening my laptop, "I've prevented you from putting yourselves in an even worse one." I connected to the room's display system, bringing up my documentation. "Shall we discuss the numerous security vulnerabilities I've reported over the past 6 months, or would you prefer to start with the intellectual property violations?" The room temperature seemed to drop several degrees. Board member Sarah Jenkins leaned forward. "You've been documenting everything." "Everything," I confirmed, pulling up folder after folder of meticulously organized evidence. Every dismissed security concern, every ignored vulnerability report, every instance of code theft. But more importantly, I switched to a different screen. I've been developing solutions. That got their attention. In the tech world, problems were common, solutions were gold. During my time here, I've developed a new security framework specifically designed to address the flaws in NextGen's architecture. One that's already patented and fully licensed. I pause, letting that sink in. You can't use my old algorithm without permission, but you could license my new one. The one that's actually designed for your infrastructure. "You developed this while working as a QA tester?" Torres asked, incredulous. "No," I corrected him. "I developed this while working as a QA tester, systems analyst, and security architect. All roles I've effectively been performing, though you only paid me for the first one." Jenkins was already running calculations on her tablet. "The cost to license is considerable," I finished for her, "but less than the cost of a failed product launch and potential intellectual property lawsuits. Much less than the cost of losing your entire security infrastructure 3 months after launch, which is what would have happened if I hadn't stopped it today." One of the board members scoffed. "This sounds like extortion." "This," I said firmly, "sounds like consequences and an opportunity." I opened a new document, my real proposal. NextGen has a chance to do more than just fix a security problem. You have a chance to fix the culture that created it. Over the next hour, I outlined my vision, a complete restructuring of NextGen's development process, emphasizing collaborative innovation and ethical coding practices. No more stolen code, no more ignored security warnings, no more dismissing expertise based on job titles. The tech industry has a culture problem, I explained. We undervalue quality assurance, ignore security concerns, and rush to market without proper safeguards. I chose to work as a QA tester because I wanted to understand these issues from the ground up. What I found was even worse than I expected. I showed them internal communications, development logs, and system vulnerabilities. A damning portrait of a company that had prioritized speed over security, hubris over diligence. The good news is, you can be the company that changes this. That leads the industry in a new direction. I pulled up my final slide. a complete reorganization plan that would make NextGen a pioneer in ethical software development. The board deliberation lasted hours. Arguments flew back and forth across the table. Anderson, called in to defend his decisions, left the room looking like he aged 10 years. By evening, we had a deal. I would become NextGen's new Chief Technology Officer, with a mandate to implement comprehensive reforms. My security framework would become the company's new standard, properly licensed and attributed. And most importantly, we would establish an industry-first ethical development program, emphasizing collaboration across all levels of software development. The changes began immediately. Anderson resigned to pursue other opportunities. The development team was restructured, with QA testers integrated into every phase of development. I made sure Sarah, a junior tester who supported my concerns, was promoted to lead a new security audit team. The tech press had a field day with the story. QA tester revealed as security pioneer, read one headline. NextGen's wake-up call, the high cost of ignored expertise, declared another. Maria stopped by my new office a week after the changes began. Not exactly how we plan to revolutionize the industry, she said, looking around at the space that was bigger than our entire first startup. But it might work better this way. She was right. By changing NextGen from the inside, we have the resources and influence to affect industry-wide change. Other companies, seeing our success, began implementing similar reforms. The practice of borrowing open-source code without proper attribution declined sharply as companies realized the risks. 6 months later, I stood on stage at the National Technology Conference, delivering a keynote speech about ethical software development. In the audience, I could see faces from across the industry, including some who had dismissed similar warnings years ago. The strength of any system, I told them, lies not in its most prominent features, but in its most basic foundations. In software, as in organizations, ignoring those foundations eventually leads to collapse. NextGen's stock had not only recovered but reached new highs. Our new security framework, developed and tested with input from all levels of the development team, set new industry standards. More importantly, our ethical development program became a model for other companies. Anderson? Last I heard, he was working as a consultant, giving talks about the importance of listening to your QA team. I suppose some lessons have to be learned the hard way. A year after that fateful product launch, I sat in my office reviewing applications for our new developer training program. We'd received thousands of submissions, many from people traditionally overlooked in tech, quality assurance testers, support staff, self-taught programmers from non-traditional backgrounds. Sarah knocked on my door, excitement evident on her face. The Ethical Development Certification Program just got approved by the Industry Standards Board. We're officially setting the benchmark for the entire sector. I smiled, remembering all those months of careful observation and documentation. Sometimes, I told her, the best way to fix a broken system is to understand it from the ground up. To see its flaws not as an outsider trying to break in, but as someone working within its lowest levels. The view from my office showed the NextGen campus now transformed into a model of collaborative development. Teams of developers and testers worked together in open spaces, their roles fluid and overlapping. In the distance, construction had begun on our new innovation center, a space dedicated to ethical software development and inclusive tech education. My phone buzzed with a message from the board. Our latest security suite had just passed final testing, with unprecedented success rates. The message was copied to the entire development team, from senior architects to junior testers. Another small change that signaled a larger transformation. I thought about that morning in the command center, watching the system crash exactly as I predicted. The revenge I'd sought wasn't just about proving my own worth. It was about proving that the entire way we developed software needed to change. As I write this from my office, watching teams of developers and testers collaborate on our next project, I'm reminded of something I told the board that first day. True innovation doesn't come from rushing to market or cutting corners. It comes from building strong foundations, valuing all perspectives, and understanding that expertise can be found at every level of an organization. The monitors in our command center still show global deployment maps, but now they tell a different story. Instead of cascading failures, they show stable systems, ethical development practices, and a company that learned the hard way that sometimes the most important person in the room is the one you least expect. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about bringing a system down. It's about building it back up, better than before. And sometimes the quiet person in the corner, the one everyone underestimated, turns out to be exactly who you needed all along.